So today I'm off, and I guess a lot of times the injury leaves me in like a sort of a mindless state, sort of like staring off into oblivion, into the abyss. So I don't really come up with too many ideas, but I came up with this one. What I'd really like to do, if you go to www.maelstrom.homestead.com, it basically says Maelstrom, Maelstrom. If you go to maelstrom.homestead.com, you'll see like there's a section there. I've been building websites since about, I want to say 1997 or about 1999, I think, is when I got my first computer, and it was way too slow. So I immediately went out and I got another one. I learned how to build websites, not using HTML, but using the templates, like, pick your background color, pick this color, add this element, download photos, add music, the easy point-click stuff. Not a lot of text, but the text came in like typing, and I built like these websites to promote my artwork and to show off my artwork and stuff like that, get work, sell stuff. Didn't really accomplish much with it, but I mean, it was innovative. It was like something that I persisted at. But anyway, the point I was making is that if you go there, you'll see like there's a section that says storefront signs and windows. That's what I'd really like to do. I'd like to, like a friend of mine told me the other day that he talked to this artist. I think it was the guy who just did Watchmen, and he like doesn't have to work another day in his life. Just as an anecdote, I don't understand why the writers went on strike, because most of the writers are in comics anyway, and like, so there isn't a lot of good writing out there, and comics are like leading the way as far as movies are concerned, which is really unusual. But at any rate, this artist, he said that he gets up when he decides to get up, and he goes to bed when he decides to go to bed. And that's what it's like to work at home, and to like set your own deadline, set your own schedule, and basically make the kind of money that you need in order to have like a life that is within means. I'm not talking about extravagance or living extravagantly. I mean, for me, an old stone house with about five rooms, maybe like 3 bedrooms. One I can use for a bedroom, office, and maybe an art studio, with like some property that I can be alone and make as much noise as I want to, with like an Xbox 360 and a 64-inch screen television would be ideal. Like just away from the city, close enough to the city to actually take care of business, but far enough away to be in like a country setting, because I'm part Native American. So the fact of the matter is that I have to be in touch with nature, man. I just don't get into the vibe of the city because it's too erratic, it's too chaotic, it's too unfriendly, and it's something that I only want to visit from time to time. But ideally, that's what I'm going to try to end up doing. That's an idea that I have in my head to get out of this situation, is to set up a studio where I can do my storefront signs and windows again, and maybe even, like, because it's all hand painted, hand done, hand crafted, maybe even get into like doing my fine art again, because my fine art was very representational of the times. If you go on that website, you'll see a lot of it critique the times, the abruptness of the immorality, the inconsideration, the lack of human, like a human spirit, a human bond, a bond of humanity. People trying to be too microcosmic and segregationalist, and not many people into the quantum physics of like making a choice, sticking by that choice, and having that choice be for the benefit of mankind. I mean, it's always selfish, it's always self-centered, it's always focused on my home, my school, my community, and it's like even people of the same uniform have their microcosms, their subgroups where these guys don't like those guys, and those guys think these guys are jerks, or this, that, and the other. It's just like prejudices within prejudices within prejudices. So they don't really exist because of the fact that they're not really groups. They're just people who idealize that they separate themselves from the rest by being in a uniform, but they're not. They're still the same as everybody else. And most of my life, that's the way I've grown up. I've never seen life in ethnicity, color code, unless required to address an issue. You have to use, well, the guy had this color skin, this color eyes, whatever. For the most part, my friends have been humanity, humankind. Just humankind who are of the same mindset, who think reasonably, sensibly, rationally. And the unreasonable ones, the people who do unconscionable acts, who have no conscience, were beasts to me. And so it's sort of like for those reasons that I'm in this situation and trying to fight myself out. And I believe that I can get out. But again, it takes a community. It takes people working together. It takes people helping each other. Opportunity, providence, whatever you want to call it. So I guess putting my story out there and talking about my misfortunes, like an impetuous fiance who wouldn't take no for an answer and eventually got pregnant because she just had to have me, and then butchered my child. My subsequent fiance dying from complications of some insulin withdrawal and insulin shock surrounding complications of pneumonia in the hospital, and me nearly being crushed by that. My subsequent, like, numerous homelessness episodes, and then the accident, losing my career as a musical equipment technician, and eventually having 3 generations of my family stuff stolen, and everything that I've put together, 300 pieces of artwork, 500 like collectibles, Star Wars action figures, porcelain statues, comic books, just letting that stuff go, shrugging it off as so much dust because of the fact that the trauma of embracing the emotional duress caused by the loss would just put me over the edge. It would either provoke vigilante justice or some sort of psychosis where I'm going through post-traumatic stress disorder. But it was demoralizing, debilitating, and it was very, very exhausting to deal with nonetheless. And those are the things that I'm suffering, I think, the repercussions behind it. I mean, it's an attempt at self-diagnosis because of the fact that I can't afford a doctor, you know, and I'm not savvy enough to go out there and find free clinics and so on and so forth. And I've talked to people. I mean, people used to put their hands on me against my will and just beat the living bejesus out of me all the time, just like my brother did when I was growing up. They look at me and just start kicking my butt for no reason whatsoever, other than the fact that I was weak and it disgusted them, or I seemed soft or something like that. And so they just started beating on me. I mean, I got robbed going to school, I got robbed at school, I got robbed coming home from school, and then my brother basically beat the snot out of me for wearing a pair of his socks or wearing his underwear or not cleaning up because mom told me to or something like that. I mean, there were like some very low points in my life. I mean, spending Thanksgivings alone because we were too poor to have them, or my family was too dysfunctional, or my dad was constantly condescending to me, so I never saw him most of my life, and he never paid alimony or anything like that. And my mom raised me basically from the time I was 3 without a father my entire life, with babysitters that were like stewardesses and models, and surrounded by women. I mean, I was surrounded by women all my life, and they took care of me because of the fact that I was the runt of the litter. I was the baby, and they all corralled around me. So I learned how to deal with women on a straight shooting level, and not just as pieces of meat, hose bags for my personal pleasure or enjoyment. I tried to get married 2 or 3 times, and they failed miserably. One died. The other, as I said, butchered my child in the womb and left. And the last one left me after my work-related accident. So, I mean, that has an effect on people, Insensitive apes and barbarians and men of a different cloth will say, pick yourself up by your shoestraps, you're a sissy, you're a baby. I'm an artist, and I feel deeply. And most of those barbarians don't. So when they usually crack, it's called something like Alzheimer's, senility. So that's when you haven't faced your emotional duress, and it all piles up on you, and you're no longer the warrior you thought you were. And all your problems come to a head all at once. And you go into a coma of drool and stupidity for your twilight years as an old man. It's not going to happen to me. I cry, I get upset, and I get called names for it, and men hate that. Well, certain men, not all. But that's too bad. That's what it's like to be a man. You have a full range of emotions, and you care.